Wild Hearts was released in February of last year, 2023, and it went horribly. Players on release were met with an unoptimized game that had plenty of bugs, terrible lag where couldn't even get to 30 FPS consistently with a decently spec'd out PC, and just a game that wasn't really working. But after a full year and a couple of months later, after all the optimization patches and content updates, I decided to stream the game for a full week so that chat and I can see what the game experience is like now and see whether or not it actually is playable. Before I talk about my experience playing the game, let me just catch you guys up with a very brief history of Wild Hearts, in case you're not aware of the story of this game. Prior to the game's release, people were hopeful for Monster Hunter to have a worthy competitor in Wild Hearts because it looked beautiful when the studio dropped trailers for the game. It looked stunning in regards to both the world of the game and the monsters you'd fight. People's expectations were met with disappointment when it was released though, because even though a lot of people actually enjoy the gameplay and the combat of the game, with its unique weapon design and the Karakuri, tool building, or Fortnite mechanic of the game, it was horrendously unoptimized and caused players to not be able to play it without any frame drops, lags, and freezing. Basically, the game was unplayable. But months passed and the team behind Wild Hearts continued to try and fix the game with optimization patches and continued to produce more content for players to experience to bring us the current state of Wild Hearts. Then, 7 months after the game's release, in September of 2023, EA ended the support for Wild Hearts. The game hasn't seen any updates or fixes ever since. So after all that, we are now here in the present, with me testing out the game a year after its release. And while we're here in the present, if you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you liked it and let me know if you like this type of format in future videos. I would also greatly appreciate it if you subscribe because there are a lot of you who are new to my channel. Please hit that subscribe button to see more videos like this in the future. I went into this with the intention of getting a feel of the combat of the game, other than finding out whether the optimization was fixed. This is because, as a fan of Monster Hunter World, the main driving force for me to enjoy a game like this is whether or not it has a well-designed combat system similar to Monster Hunter. My love for a combat system like Monster Hunter is the reason I like Granblue Fantasy Relink and Souls-like games' varied weapon styles combat. And after playing Wild Hearts for over 25 hours the past week, I can say that the combat of Wild Hearts is exceptionally fun. The weapon designs are so uniquely interesting, and they definitely have very distinct gameplay mechanics that are different from Monster Hunter's weapons. You have a bladed Wagasa, which is a serrated umbrella that encourages a hyper-aggressive playstyle with its charge meter filling up the more you continuously hit the kimono. Kimonos are what the monsters are called in this game, so just keep that in mind because I will continue to call them that throughout the video. The bladed Wagasa also has a power mechanic attached to it that also fills up the weapon's charge, so you are rewarded with a hyper-aggressive playstyle where you continually attack the enemy non-stop and perfectly timing your parries. It also has this cool-ass move where you can throw it and it comes back while continuously hitting the enemy on its way back. Oh shit! Oh, that's also fucking cool. Have you seen that? Did you see that? There's also a weapon called the Claw Blade, where you have a roped weapon with a sharp blade on one end and a claw on the other. Yes, a freaking claw. This lets you latch onto the kimonos and basically keep yourself attached to them during the fight. But as a hard-hitting weapons enthusiast that I am, I made the Nodashi, or Wild Hearts equivalent of the Greatsword, and the Maul, or the Hammer. The Nodashi or Greatsword isn't really too unique. You basically charge your sword by holding down the button and either running around and finding an opening and releasing the button for a charge attack, or use your X or Y attacks, yes, I'll be using the Xbox layout, to charge the weapon's bar faster. Then once the meter's full, you unleash a strong slash. Again, not too flashy. But my favorite was the Maul. It's such an interesting take on the hammer, because whenever you attack with your X or Y button, you can time the right trigger with the weapon's flash and it grows the handle. You can also just hold the right trigger to spin while your handle continues to grow longer. The longer the handle is, the stronger the Maul's attacks are. This made the hammer so interesting because after a couple of funs with the Maul, I realized you can do a cool aerial combo that leads to its strongest attack, and it works because the extended handle of the Maul lets you reliably hit the kimonos while you're mid-air. The Maul was such a unique take on the hammer because you'd usually associate it with a slower, more grounded playstyle, but it works with the way it's designed in Wild Hearts. I've tried out every weapon the game had to offer, although not to each one's full extent, and even though I obviously have favorites, I think every weapon is so uniquely well designed, which makes each one fun to use, especially as you expand on their movesets even more with the Karakuris. Now, I initially wasn't necessarily excited with the Karakuri because I wasn't sure how it was gonna make the game fun. But the more I played around with it, the more I grew to appreciate it. Karakuris are basically building blocks you can use mid-fight to help you with your hunts. You can make a variety of Karakuris, from jump pads, to torches that increase your weapon's damage, to gliders that let you fly around the map. And these enhance your gameplay a lot because they directly affect your weapon's moveset. The different Karakuris interact differently with a varied cast of weapons, and it opens up your combat route even more. For example, the bow has a charging mechanic where if you press Y, you charge up your bow, which directly affects its moves. Like how a level 1 bow has different moves compared to a level 2 bow. This charging mechanic could initially feel a little too slow because you have to press a button to charge it, but with Karakuris, you can immediately charge your bow after using them. So after using the Spring Karakuri and attacking with a bow, you can immediately charge your bow to level 1, easily letting you follow up with a level 1 finisher. And then the Glider Karakuri levels up your bow to level 2 for an easy level 2 finisher when you land. The Karakuris also just sometimes give the weapons new moves. Things like this open up the combat so much because you are able to directly affect your moveset and playstyle depending on which Karakuris you bring, because you can only equip 4 Karakuri types in your hunts. This was one of my favorite parts of playing Wild Hearts, because whenever I unlocked a new Karakuri, I get to uncover more of my weapon's moveset. So the gameplay was always growing throughout the story because you gradually unlock more Karakuris to build and further expand on your moveset. And I was ecstatic as soon as I discovered that there was a Harpoon Karakuri that gives them all a new move to dish out huge damage without relying on its multi-hit combo. Boom! The Karakuris don't even stop there. I won't even talk about the Dragon Karakuri that you can use to set up around the map to let you traverse through the areas easier. But I will talk about the Fusion Karakuris. Essentially, there are multiple combinations of Karakuri builds you can do that will result into a Fusion Karakuri that helps you in hunts. For example, you can create a wall that will stop charging kimonos by building 2 columns of 3 crates each. You can also make a giant hammer that can topple the kimono by building a 3 high spring Karakuri. There are so much more Fusion Karakuris. They widen your playstyle variety because the Fusion Karakuris you can use will depend on which basic Karakuris you equipped in your hunts. In my opinion, the Karakuri carries the game because it enhances your gameplay and playstyle so much, the variety of setups you can do, and how it greatly affects your weapon's moveset and even the mobility in the game. This makes the game's combat system pretty deep with a wide moveset for each weapon and Karakuri combination. Wild Hearts is definitely much faster than Monster Hunter World, at least because of the number of movement mechanics you are given with the Karakuri. So whether or not that is a plus, that's up to you, but personally, I really enjoy it. Wild Heart's dodge is also faster and goes further than World because you can dash dodge to cover a lot of ground. The combat is very fluid because it's not as committal as World's weapon attacks, like the Ondashi or Greatsword, which is a very good example of this because Wild Heart's Ondashi slashes is so much faster and the moves transition to each other much quicker compared to World's Greatsword. But the game isn't too arcadey because you still have to react to the kimono's attacks with good dodge timing and proper Karakuri building. I think it's a good balance of fast-paced combat and reactive decision making. Now, sadly, after all that praise for its combat system, we have to move on to the game's performance. So my setup isn't really the best, but it's a pretty decent PC. Although I'm playing with an RTX 3060 and a 16GB RAM, my CPU is an Intel i5-8500, which is a pretty old chip. But this setup will let me play Elden Ring consistently with little to no frame drops or lag, which I can't do with Wild Hearts at low settings. And although after all the optimization patches, it is playable now, at least compared to Wild Hearts on release, because I can actually semi-consistently play at 40 to 50 FPS, it still does feel unoptimized. I was playing the game at 40 to 50 FPS, occasionally hitting 60 when I would be running around and not really fighting anything. But when I get into fights, the FPS still plays around 40 to 50 FPS, but I would occasionally drop to 30, sometimes even to the 20s, depending on how big the kimonos or its attacks are. You'd think that'd be pretty good because I could play at a semi-consistent rate at 40 FPS, but with the frequency and the intensity of the fluctuations of the frames, it greatly affects your ability to play the game. It makes it harder for you to choose an opening for attacks and timing your dodges whenever the opponent is attacking. And there was no play session where the game didn't just suddenly start lagging. And that happens multiple times in one session. It's so painful to do a hunt and see the kimono attack, but you can't really react because the game just suddenly decides to run at 5 FPS for a few seconds. And that's not an exaggeration. Throughout my whole playtime, there were plenty of moments where the game just suddenly slows down to 5 FPS, and obviously nothing you input within those few seconds will register. I'm not sure why this is happening, because it occurs even when nothing is really happening in the game. I could just be running around the town where there are no kimonos. Nothing to really cause the game to just suddenly lag, and it just does it. It's so frustrating to experience the game like this, because I think the gameplay is pretty great. Now you might think, hey, maybe your PC just can't handle running the game and streaming it at the same time. I did play the game off stream as well, without OBS or anything running besides the game. And yes, the FPS average did go up. I was playing the game with 10 more frames, at an average of 50 FPS, and hitting 60 much more frequently. But it didn't really stop the random lagging, even when I wasn't running OBS. So that problem still exists whether or not I was streaming the game. So yes, the game is definitely more playable now, but it still suffers from the unoptimization of the build. I know I'm not the only one with this experience, because I had multiple people in chat talk about how they have PC setups that are a bit better than mine, but still also experiences the lag. Even people on Reddit have talked about the terrible performance of the game even after all the patches, with even better PC builds. On the other hand, it seems like console players have it so much better. People on Reddit have talked about their smooth experience with the game on their PS5. One chatter from my stream even talked about how they didn't really have any issues playing on their PS5. I'm not sure about every single console experience, but I think it does seem like the PC port is just that terrible. Oh, also for the Xbox Series S apparently. Now I'm not sure how the player base really compares between the PC and the console ports, but I get the feeling that the PC player base affected the game's health so much more than the consoles, because it does seem that the poor reception of the PC port could have been the reason for EA to lose hope and pull the plug on Wild Hearts only a couple of months after release. Just a quick note on online, it was surprisingly not that bad for the one time I tried it. I played the game with someone from Netherlands, and I'm from the Philippines, and the connection was pretty good. We did have troubles trying to invite each other initially, but when we were finally able to play together, we didn't really have any connection issues. I assumed that one of us would start having connection issues because I thought the game would have a hard time finding us a server where we would both have a good connection with. But it was fine. Neither one of us got dropped or experienced any stuttering or connection type of lag. I'm pretty sure performance would dip a lot more if there were 3 of us in a hunt with a huge kimono where we would all be building karakuris, so the game would have so many more things to process on screen. Other than that, that one online session was okay. Although I've seen people complain about online, so maybe we just got lucky? Going back to the performance of the game, yes, it is better now, but it's still not fixed. It sucks because a lot of people actually enjoy the gameplay of Wild Hearts. You can see a lot of passionate fans both on Reddit and in the Steam reviews. Yes, the game has mixed reviews right now on Steam, but the majority of it are people who expressed how much fun they have in the game when it worked. It just didn't always work well. The terrible performance ruined the experience of a potentially great game. To be honest, I might actually try it and play it more because I really do like the combat of Wild Hearts, and I kinda wanna see what the endgame is like. I'm just not sure if I'll stream the game, just so that I can actually enjoy it. At the end of the day, I love the look and feel of the game, and I'm willing to suffer through the terrible performance just to experience the gameplay more. I'm just not sure if others would. So that's it for this video. I'm not sure if I'll make another one on this game when I reach the end, possibly give my take on how it feels at that point. But if you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, check out my other content, and subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Let me know what other similar combat style games you'd like to see me cover next time. I've been looking for more games like these, so I would really appreciate your input. Monster Hunter Rise is on my list because I haven't played it. I know, I should. But let me know other games with combat similar to Monster Hunter World, Wild Hearts, and Granblue Fantasy Relink that I should play. That's it. Thanks so much. Peace. Bye-bye.